Hey everyone, my name is David Dunbar, or the Theme Park Evangelist. So today I'm going to be talking about, is the Food and Wine Festival worth it? Now, it is a little late in the day, been kind of relaxing upstairs. I've just been kind of tired today. But the point is, I am getting this done, and it's being done today, so it's all that matters, I guess. And to answer your question, is the Food and Wine Festival worth it? Well, it depends on how you think it's worth it, and why you would think it's worth it, and what makes it worth it. So, I personally am going to use my personal experience to prove to you guys why I think the Food and Wine Festival is worth it throughout the majority of it, but I'm also going to go by facts and all that good stuff. So, what is exactly the Food and Wine Festival? Well, to answer, your question on that, the Food and Wine Festival is an annual event that is held at Epcot, but also Busch Gardens has the same exact thing, and if I'm not mistaken, SeaWorld has the same exact thing as well, because both Busch Gardens and SeaWorld are owned by the same company versus, Epcot's owned by Disney, or is a Disney park. So, the one I'm referring to is the Disney version. So, the Disney version started a number of years ago. And what you do is you go from one country to the next, and you kind of just sample their food. There's no taste card or anything. You just go up to like a country of some sort, and you decide, okay, do I want to get this kind of food or this kind of wine or this kind of beer or whatever, and they'll usually give you a passport so you can keep track of everything you've gotten, and they'll stamp it for you each time. The passport's free. You don't have to get the passport. It's just kind of fun. Like, what I was trying to say is, there's no requirement for getting the passport. It's just there, as I said, for fun. So, anyway, whenever you go to the Food and Wine Festival, normally you walk around Olive World Showcase, you do all the food and wine tasting or whatnot, or an Olive World Showcase. Now, Food and Wine Festival has grown considerably over the years, and now it's gone into Future World. So there's a section over by O Canada, or just the Canadian Showcase, where now you can buy some of the food and wine over there as well. So that's more or less like what the Food and Wine Festival is. Now, as far as, is it worth it? Like, is the Food and Wine Festival worth it? Which is the overall discussion of my vlog. Well, to be honest, what makes it worth it to you, which is kind of where it goes by personal preference. So, for me, I've always found it worth it because what I always have done in the past is I have gone to at least 3 countries. I pick 3 separate countries or 3 random countries or whatnot each time I go. And I give myself a $20 budget. So I decide, okay, let's see here. I really like this country. I really like this country. I'll try a new country this time. I'll go try out this one. And usually, otherwise, I'll just kind of go ride some rides, and I'll go over to the festival center. When I first started going to the Food and Wine Festival, the festival center was originally the Old Wonders of Life Pavilion. So they would have all this stuff, and there you could learn how to cook different foods. They would have all these famous chefs, like Gordon Ramsay was there one time, and they would do all these cooking presentations. They have an area about like how Ghirardelli chocolate was made, and you can get a sample of chocolate at the end. I mean, it's really cool stuff if it comes down to it. And that was also something else I would do while I was in there. But I always stuck to that $20 budget, and I normally would pack a lunch because I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't really want to go spend too much money because I'm already walking around sampling different foods. And I'll be honest, I've been going to the Food and Wine Festival long before I was of legal drinking age. So I would just go and get some food. I wouldn't even necessarily like drink or anything. I would just pack my lunch. There was an area over by trying to think here. Oh yeah, the Rose and Crown Pub. The Rose and Crown Pub is a sit-down British restaurant in the United Kingdom section. I always try to discuss my YouTube videos like I'm talking to someone who's never been to Disney or has no idea what I'm talking about. So I always try to explain everything as well as I possibly can. Like Tristan, for example, has never been to Disney World in his life. So when he watches my YouTube video later, because of course most of my YouTube videos are always pre-recorded. So when you guys watch them later on the day, or whenever, you're seeing something from another time. But I enjoy doing pre-recorded, and especially if I need to like get up or something like that, or like the other day, for example, when I was recording and my parents happened to show up and I had to end that clip right then and there and just start filming the very next day. That's why I like pre-recording stuff. Very rarely do I do a live stream, but don't get me wrong, I love my live streams as well. Anyway, that was off topic and stuff like that, but yeah, the point is I always try to discuss my YouTube videos like I'm talking to you for the first time about it. But there is an area over by the giant lake where they now show the new Epcot fireworks show, Harmonious or something like that, which is originally where the former fireworks show Illuminations Reflections of Earth used to go. I have not seen Harmonious, obviously, because I haven't been to Disney World since the beginning of the year, and Illuminations Reflections on Earth got taken out like a year or two ago, so it's been gone for a while now. But Illuminations has been around for a long time. I always loved Illuminations despite their whole, like, trying to force culture down everybody's throats. But anyway, yeah, that's another discussion. So, for me personally, this is what I recommend you guys going or doing when you go to the Food and Wine Festival, which is actually going on right now. So when I first used to go, it started like right after Labor Day weekend, and it would end like mid-November, somewhere around there, maybe even late November, because of the fact that Disney would eventually go, like almost immediately, at least with Epcot, into their holidays around the world, which is really, really cool, but we'll get to that when I go into my Christmas YouTube videos. But we're still in fall mode, so we're going to only talk about fall stuff right now. And hold on one second. Got an itchy. That's another reason why I like pre-recorded videos, because I can just pause it really quick and do what I need to do, and then go right back to it. So, I would say right off the bat, get an idea of, like, how much money you're willing to spend. Also, while you're walking around, kind of get an idea, where do I want to go? I know a guy, or I knew a guy, I should say, that has gone to the Food and Wine Festival in the past, and he was completely okay with spending about $200. If that's what you want to do, go for it. Just keep in the back of your mind that it's going to add up. Also, keep in the back of your mind, if you go to the Food and Wine Festival, you're only getting a small little shot glass of alcohol. As far as food, your plate's going to be a teeny tiny thing like you would get from Costco or whatever. It's going to be a sampler. Something just to give you a taste of what you're going to get. You're obviously not going to be spending a lot of money. And you also have to think to yourself, how much am I willing to spend in that sense? Because do I want to go to the Food and Wine Festival and throw away a couple of $100 or a few $100 for that matter? Or would I rather go to a nice Disney sit-down restaurant later on in the day and have a nice elaborate meal for about the same price? So it's kind of one of those like balance on the scale. Or you kind of have to think like which is greater, which is not so great. Like, would I rather do this or would I rather do that? Yeah, that's another thing you have to keep in your mind. And also, last but not least, you have to read what you're buying before you actually buy it. Sometimes you might just go, oh, that looks good, and then you buy it, and you're like, oh, that was crappy, I hated it. And then you end up, think to yourself, why did I waste my money? And then you want your money back, and they're like, well, you already consumed it, so there's nothing we can do for it. I mean, I don't know what Disney would do. I personally really wanted to work the Food and Wine Festival back a few years ago, but the demand to work it was so high, I never got that chance. But oh my goodness, that would have been so cool. But oh well. I would say another question that I think there was another question I did have for you guys, which is, I already asked what is the Food and Wine Festival? Why is it worth it? Now, how can the Food and Wine Festival be worth it? That's going to be my last question for you guys. Like, I guess the best way to answer that question is, how can you make it worth your while? Well, for one thing, let's say you're on a vacation and you just happen to be going to Epcot and the Food and Wine Festival is going on. I would say, well, first of all, do your research ahead of time. Find out what events are going on. Find out if you can even afford it in the first place. Okay, is it within my budget? Because if I can't afford to do the Food and Wine Festival, there really is no reason to go to Epcot unless you're just going to ignore that, which, trust me, that is the hardest thing, especially if you like food. Or if you really want to try out some wine. Also, how can it be worth it? As I said earlier, plan a budget. Otherwise, you're going to go crazy. And then you're going to end up losing too much money over it. Another thing you can do is you can dedicate some time in the day to riding the rides and dedicate some time in the day to just walking around and enjoying some of the food and wine. Now, I personally have gone to Food and Wine Festival for years, and I know for a fact that the Food and Wine Festival is usually a good time of the year to go and ride some rides, while everybody else is wandering around World Showcase, trying out all the food and wine. I used to hop on the single rider, or in the single rider line for Test Track, and everybody would be over in World Showcase, and I would walk right on Test Track, sometimes twice in a row, because nobody would be over in Future World. And even with Mission Space, like Green Team had only like a 5-minute wait. Of course, I only just started riding Mission Space about 3 years ago. But that's another story for another time. I think I'm going to save that for another How I Met Kay and TJ video, which I need to get to that again. So you can even think about that, like, okay, well, how about I go and do all the food and wine sampling early in the day? And trust me, that is another thing that I need to discuss with you guys. How can I make the Food and Wine Festival worth it? Go earlier in the day. Because the later in the day it gets, the busier it's going to be over in the World Showcase, especially on a weekend. Now, obviously, due to COVID, there's not many great concerts going on, But in the past, they've had people like Dennis DeYoung there. They've had, trying to think here. I know they've had some Christian concerts there right after Night of Joy got canceled. Like Mercy Me and Stephen Christian. I think he was only there during Flower and Garden. I know there have been some really good, other bands there as well. I believe one time they had, oh my goodness, what is their name again? Doesn't matter. See, that doesn't help me when I forget certain bands. Like, I might just scroll through my phone really quickly and just see if I even recognize anybody that might have been at Food and Wine Festival. I'm very sure that Asia has not been to the Food and Wine Festival yet. 10cc, I know they were there. I've seen 38 Special at the Food and Wine Festival before. I'm still looking now. Let's see here. Air Supply, they've been at the Food and Wine Festival before. There was another group that I really wanted to mention, but I can't remember their name offhand. But, I mean, you see what I'm getting at. They've had some decent bands. I mean, obviously they're not big, well-known names, but that's another reason why it's worth going. Like, okay, yes, a lot of the concerts do take place in the evenings, which is another huge crowd draw factor. So you have to keep in your mind, am I willing to put up with those crowds? I mean, obviously, when we go back to normal more, then yes, we will start to have that issue with everybody like showing up all at once to go see like these big name bands. But as of right now, with them getting like these minor bands I've never heard of before in my life, mainly because of the fact that I'm only 27 right now, I'm like, well, I don't know if I really want to go see a concert necessarily, but hey, go do the Food and Wine Festival, sure. Oh, one last thing. How else can the Food and Wine Festival be worth it? Well, in the past, they've had Disney things, I guess you could say, like different scenes from different Disney movies made completely out of chocolate. I have them on my Facebook, my personal Facebook. I don't really want to go digging through it right now or for it. But that was another reason why I like to go. I don't know if they're still doing it. Supposedly the new festival center is in that convention area kind of between Mexico and Test Track. Wow. So once again, what is the Food and Wine Festival? It's the big annual food and wine event that's held at Epcot every single year, though you can find it at Busch Gardens and SeaWorld. Why is the Food and Wine Festival worth it? Well, it's your one chance to try out all kinds of food and wines from all over the world, as long as you stay within a budget. And how can you make it worth it? Go when it's slow, when concerts come back to when all the normal concerts come back. Go whenever you want to go see one of your favorite big name bands, and ride all the rides that you want to ride earlier in the day, and try to even walk around World Showcase when it's quieter. Otherwise, you still have a few more weeks before the Food and Wine Festival is completely done. And then Disney will start getting ready for holidays around the world. I'm going to do another vlog. This time I'm going to do another How I Met Kay and TJ vlog. The last one I did was regarding the first time I ever went to Pandora, so I got to figure out what I did next with TJ and K. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next vlog. And always remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Have a great day. Peace out.